My name is Samantha Watkins, and I'm here to talk about some Oscar nominations. I love movies, like, a lot. Like, I'm obsessed with them. Like, I would just watch them all day if I could. And I love the Oscars, obviously, because I love movies, so gotta love the award ceremony that celebrates them. So 3 years ago, I decided that I was going to watch every movie nominated in my favorite categories. And those categories are Best Picture, Lead Actor, Lead Actress, Supporting Actor, Supporting Actress, Best Director, and Best Cinematography. Last year, I got to do it with my friend Tamara Chambers, which was super fun. I loved watching all these movies with someone, and then at the end of all of it, we decided to film a video talking about the movies, how we felt about them, and what our picks in each of the nominations were, which was just like such a blast. I had so much fun doing that last year with her that I decided this year I wanted to do it again. Unfortunately, Tamara and I no longer live in the same city because I moved. So this year I'm going to have to do them on my own. Sad face. So I decided to, instead of filming one big video talking about all 7 categories at once, that I was going to break it down into smaller videos. So without any further ado, I present to you, from the film files of SMW, The Oscars, Episode 1. This year, for Best Supporting Actor, the nominees are Willem Dafoe, The Florida Project, Woody Harrelson, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, Richard Jenkins, The Shape of Water, Christopher Plummer, All the Money in the World, and Sam Rockwell, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. So, I'm just going to go through each of these performances, tell you a little bit about my thoughts about it, and at the end, I will tell you who I would pick to win if I was on the Academy. So let's do it. Up first, Willem Dafoe for The Florida Project. This will be my only chance to talk about The Florida Project since it's not nominated in any of the other categories that I'll be discussing in these videos. So first, I just want to take a chance to say that I really like this movie. The movie follows a little girl who lives with her mother at a motel outside of Orlando. This movie is really great in the way that it's telling the story of a child, and it uses a lot of storytelling techniques that are reminiscent of being a child, or that are childlike, and that's something, even with how much color is there. This movie is so pretty. There's so many colors. That's like the first thing that you notice. Every shot is so colorful. It's like you're looking at the world through the eyes of a child who has a lot more hope and imagination and might see a more colorful world than an adult might. It really is just an honest snapshot, and like, this is how these people live, this is what their lives are like, this is what they're like. It's simple and it's beautiful. There's just a lot of really great relationships. This movie is about the characters and the relationships, for sure. So I would definitely recommend this movie to people who like movies that are centered around the characters more so than around the plot lines or big events that might happen or things like that. Willem Dafoe was definitely my favorite part of this film. He really became the character, and it's not that it's like a super complicated character, but the way that he transformed himself into it makes it really believable and really real, and especially looking at like other characters Willem Dafoe has played. Like, I always think about his role in Grand Budapest Hotel, which is like totally the opposite of this. And so seeing kind of this immersive, just like real guy was really interesting. Fun fact about Willem Dafoe in this movie: he moved down to the filming area a week early so that he could immerse himself in the atmosphere and like get down the nuances of the regional dialect down there. You can see that in his performance. You can see that work, that he really did immerse himself in it, and you know, he just fits into this world so wonderfully. It's such a simple thing, but it really does make for a really good performance. His character is really interesting because you see him struggle between finding the balance of kind of sternness and love. He's the manager of this motel, but essentially his relationship to the other characters is that he's the landlord and they're his tenants. You can see how much he cares about these people. He wants to help them. Like, he really does, but at the same time he has to balance running this motel. He has to follow certain rules. He wants to like make a home for these people. He wants to care for them. And that is so clear, even though, I mean, he never outright says it, but it's so clear in his character. But he also, there has to be a line at some point. Like, he has to draw a line with these people, because they do some really ridiculous things. My favorite thing about his performance is that he was able to convey so much in so little. The best moments of his performance was all the stuff between the lines, and he did that so well. My favorite scene that I think actually really captures his character, he has this just little short scene with some cranes, the bird cranes, not like the construction cranes, and so he just kind of has this little conversation with this group of cranes, and it's like maybe a 30-second scene. It's not particularly important to the plot line of the movie or anything like that. He really shows his character in this scene, which again is like so interesting because he's just like having this it's just this random scene with him like talking to some birds. It's not a pivotal scene, but it I don't know, something about it just like really spoke to me and was really interesting, and I really feel that that scene does capture kind of his character and his performance and what is so great about it. Next up is Woody Harrelson for 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Really nice performance by Woody Harrelson. I love Woody Harrelson personally. He's actually like one of my favorite actors. Ever since I saw Zombieland, which was a life-changing movie for me. That may shock some of you. Cara Taylor, if you're watching, it will not shock you. You know what I'm talking about. I haven't seen him in a role that I didn't love him in, so it's really no surprise that I love him in this. And I think I go into it with some kind of bias anyway, because I'm like, oh, it's Woody Harrelson, I love Woody Harrelson. This performance specifically, one of the most interesting things for me was his relationship with Mildred, and kind of like seeing his reaction to the billboards. They have a lot of moments together that are really great. I think their relationship is really interesting because they're not rivals. I think kind of at the beginning, the way that everything's presented, you expect like, oh, Mildred is the good and Chief Willoughby is the bad, and like that's what this is gonna be. It's gonna be like these two people against each other, but it like that's not what their relationship is at all. You see him kind of be conflicted. He feels really bad for Mildred and he really wants to help her. Like, he wants to catch this guy. He doesn't know what to do. His resources are limited and these things take time, and he wants her to understand that. He doesn't want her to hate him. And mini spoiler, kind of. He's also fighting his own personal battle with cancer. He's tries to stay strong for his family, and he's afraid that he's gonna have to like leave his family someday, and that's scary. So he's dealing with all that. Like, among all this, like, he holds it together. Seeing him interact with his family is great. I mean, it's so clear how important his family is to him and how much he loves them. And his relationship with Dixon is really interesting. You can kind of see that he's frustrated with him, but he never gets angry with him, and it's like he's trying to teach him. I kind of feel like Willoughby just, like, he wants to please everyone as best he can. But he's having a really hard time doing that because there's so much conflict in this town. Racism is clearly an issue in this town, and it's not totally clear how he feels about it. Whatever his feelings are, he keeps them to himself. But he doesn't do as much as he should, stopping like the other cops who do overtly racist things. So he's definitely a complicated character. Woody Harrelson he makes him really likable, and he makes it really evident that this character is going through a struggle with everything. I'm going to be talking around a big spoiler in this movie, so if you haven't seen it, skip ahead like, I don't know, 10 seconds. His final scene is obviously heartbreaking, and I think he does it really well. And even just the voiceovers with the letters that he writes, those voiceovers are like really great. Totally safe, pseudo spoiler, it's done, so everybody knows. Next up is Richard Jenkins for The Shape of Water. Such a lovely performance. It was one of the first things I thought. He's got such a sweet character. He really is. And his love for Eliza is so beautiful. It's like such a pure love, and seeing them together was like so great. He was definitely one of my favorite parts about this movie, his role, for sure. He was funny, he was endearing, he was brave. His character it's kind of understated, but I mean, he's super important in this movie, right? Kind of like a quiet hero. He puts everything on the line because he loves Eliza, and that it's really sweet. There's something almost kind of childlike about his character in like the best way, which totally fits in because this whole movie is, you know, kind of has this element of magic to it, and he really, you know, fits into that, especially since he acts as a storyteller for this. I'm really glad that he got this nomination. Next up on our list is Christopher Plummer for All the Money in the World. Overall, definitely great performance. A little bit of the classic, like, really cold and stony, but then he doesn't really change, but like you see that there's like something beneath that like cold and stony heart, and he can be warm and have love. It's interesting because his character kind of avoids love, but it's also his driving force a little bit. It really takes the entire movie to get a feel of his character. These tiny little things just get revealed to show kind of his true colors. Christopher Plummer does that so well, especially because he is so established at this point. You know, like, obviously he's not going to be the kind of guy who just like has a random epiphany one day and all of a sudden like shows his true color. It's really nice to kind of see it come in these like really small waves, what he's feeling underneath the surface. He was a really intriguing character for me, but I also found him incredibly frustrating. I get very emotionally involved in films. At so many points in the movie, I get so angry for Michelle Williams' character at Christopher Plummer's character. It stopped me a little bit from enjoying the film. I'm not sure if like I needed more soft moments to like be able to see more of a change happen to him on screen. Maybe I just didn't get a chance to get to know his character enough. I don't really know. I definitely recognize that he had a really great performance, but his character was a hard one for me because I found him so infuriating. Next up, and the final man nominated in the Best Supporting Actor category, is Sam Rockwell for 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I can definitely see why he is nominated and why he's already won 2 big awards for this, the Golden Globe and the SAG. His character seems so simple at the beginning, but it's actually like a really complex character, and Sam Rockwell does a great job of capturing all the aspects of this character. The development of the character is like really interesting because he goes from being like one of the most hateful characters ever to like being someone that you kind of root for, actually. And the fact that Sam captured that so much that he could take me from hating him to rooting for him, I mean, it took me there, like, and I didn't really question it at the time. My friend that I did see this was actually, she did question this film, pointed this out to me. Dixon is like this big redeemable character. He goes from the worst to like the best. She feels that his character maybe shouldn't be redeemable because he's really terrible. Mini spoiler, skip ahead 5 seconds. He physically throws a man out a window because he's mad at him. Out of his 2nd story window. Mini spoiler over. He's not a good person. Maybe does some things to try and redeem himself and like decides he wants to make a change, which is definitely notable and like respectable, but like kind of makes you question it. It's like, wait, you don't deserve my sympathy. You did all these horrible things and I'm not gonna just forgive you for that. She brought it up and I was like, wow, that's actually a really good point. Like, I didn't think about it. I allowed myself to just be whisked into this, like, he's a hero now thing. But that's a little questionable. But that's not really a comment on his performance. It's more a comment on the character. I have to commend his performance. He made me root for him after making me hate him. It still felt like the same character. It didn't feel like all of a sudden he was playing somebody else. And I totally believed it. Whether or not his character deserves my sympathy is in question, but Sam Rockwell definitely gets my applause for tackling that a character with that much change and doing it really well. He also had a lot of humor in that movie, even when in the beginning when he's just this character that I'm just like, well, this is just a terrible person and I hate you. I still loved watching him on screen, and I still kind of found him a bit of an endearing character because he had all these, you know, little quirks and things he'd do and things he'd say, and I think that's also commendable. Even just looking at like if this character was just a villain and that's all he was, he still did that in a way that made him really human. He really did a nice job in this movie. So, I'm going to reveal my pick for Best Supporting Actor. It's a hard decision for me because there were a lot of really good movies this year. I think it's likely that Sam Rockwell will win because he's won the Golden Globe and the SAG. However, I think my personal pick for this would have to be Willem Dafoe, which I actually didn't know who I was going to pick until after I filmed this video. Willem Dafoe, my pick for Best Supporting Actor.